All right, welcome back to the second part of the Activity 3.1.5 video. If you didn't catch the first part, you do definitely need to go back and check that out because I go through some stuff in there about transforming data. And for your next assignment, which is kind of a bigger one, we're going to be combining the skills from that video and this video regarding making histograms. So I apologize for the length of these two, but try and go ahead and check out both of them. All right, so what I'm going to do is back in the same replit that we were in earlier, I'm going to comment out the part where we run transform data, and I'm going to uncomment the part where we run histogram. So I recommend you do the same, and I'll go ahead and play it. And actually, no, first we'll go ahead and look at what data we are combing through here. So there's a file, the second one down, called age income that starts out with some header information here, and then it's just a big old file of lots of ages and incomes, just like it says. So this is the data that we're going to be reading in and then transforming um, and then making a histogram out of, okay? If we go then to the actual histogram Python file, all the code is there for us. If we hit run right now, it will make the two histograms, and I have saved those as ages PNG and income PNG. So let's take a look at both of those. Ages, remember histogram is a bar graph where there is quantitative values along the bottom, and those ages are going to fall into different bins. Right, so we're not doing like one bar for every single age, like 21, 22, 23. We're going to put them in a little bit bigger size bins, or buckets is what they're sometimes called as well. So here's all the different buckets for people's ages from this survey. And then if we look at the incomes, we see all the different buckets for those incomes and the distribution of incomes. So we have a lot of people making not a lot of money here, and then gradually, or we have a lot of people not making very much money, and then gradually fewer people as we go up. All right, so we're going to dig into the code quite a little bit here, just a heads up, because your assignment is going to be to make a histogram, and you're going to have to take some data that I give you and transform it from the file into data that can be made into a histogram like this, okay? All right, so we're going to really dig into this quite a bit. And then I'm going to ask you some questions on a Canvas quiz about what is going on in this code. All right, so follow along as best you can. Okay, in the main method, we open the data file. You'll of course have to do that. We read the lines. What this does is it reads every line from the file into a list called data. Okay, so that's the first thing to know. So we have a list called data. It consists of one line from this file at a time. So it's a really nice function, that read lines. We don't have to really do much info work at all, and we already have all the data in the list. Now the data doesn't look how we want it to look yet, and that's where the transforming comes in. All right, so they make a couple lists that we're going to add on to, and they start their for loop here to go through the data that we just read in from the file. Now you'll notice that this data is sliced. We start at index 3. We're omitting lines 0, 1, and 2 because, why are we omitting the first 3 lines of data? That'll be something you have to answer on your Canvas quiz. You'll be filling in these blanks here. And then we call this split function, which if you didn't catch it from the previous video, the split function splits up data for us. Notice that it is separated by commas, and the example I gave you was separated by spaces. This is separated by commas, so we specify that there. All right. We convert the age variable. Oh, by the way, the split Instead of splitting it into a list like I did in the other example, it's split into two different variables. We know that there's only going to be two values per line, and we immediately split those into two different variables. Python's amazing. You can't do this kind of stuff in Java. Python's so slick with this. All right, so we have an age variable, but it's still a string. So we convert it to an integer, and we add it to our list. We have an income, but it is still a string. And just like our example from the other video, it starts with a $sign. So we've got some dollary dues. And sometimes it starts with a negative. Yikes. Okay. All right, but we got to do something with that negative when it comes up because we're trying to parse out the dollar amount from this income. So we check to see if the dash, there's a dash in the income that we're looking at. This income is a Walker variable, right? It's our most recent variable, but it represents each value from our list. So we check to see if there's a dash in it, which means it's negative. If it's negative, then we're going to slice it starting at index 3 of the income. If it is not negative, we're going to start slicing it at index 2 of the income. And do you remember what the -1 means at the end of this slice? What does that mean? It means go all the way to the end. So likewise, we could have just left that blank and it would have gone to the end. Notice with the negative values, we are going to multiply them by -1 after converting it to an integer. So a lot going on there. Notice they have the notes there. We're starting at index 3 because there's a space in there, there's a negative in there, and there's a $sign. If it's not negative, then we just have to deal with the space and the $sign, and that's why we're starting at index 2 for those. Okay, that was transforming our data. So we now have two lists full of ages and incomes. And now we are going to make histograms out of those two lists. Most of this code, that looks like a lot, I know, but most of it is just setting up the look of the histogram. So labels, which are important, titles, which are important, and then, just saving the file. So again, you have to have those PNGs created already, just like we saw when I had you make a graph last time. If you have them created already, then you just save fig, and then they just show up when you run the file. It's really slick. Let's take a look at some of this property stuff. So we're going to dig into this a little bit deeper. To actually make the histogram is really, really easy. All you have to do is call histogram. There's just a built-in function in this PLTW, or not PLTW, matplot library that makes histograms. So what do we have to give the histogram? We just give it the set of ages. But there's a lot of different stuff you can do with histograms because you've got to specify how many different bins you want or the size of the bins that you want. All right. So, we specify the color here, which is an optional parameter, right? You don't have to specify the color. You do need to give it the numbers, though. You have to give it the ages. And then to specify the bins, check this out. They use the range function. Think what this does. We start at an age of 15. We go to a maximum age of 115. Technically 114 here. And what are we counting by? How big are our bins? They're 10 wide. So we're going to have a bin from 15 to 24, and a bin from 25 to 34, and so on and so on, all the way up to 114. Okay, so that's one way to set the bins. You can use the range function, just like we did in the example from the other video. The other way to specify bins is just tell it how many bins do you want. So in this case, we made 200 bins to spread out all the incomes. All right, now We're going to edit this just a little bit to really see what happens with this stuff. Remember, 200 bins. But if you look at the income, there are not 200 bins right here. You can count them up. There's not even close to 200. So where the heck are all the other bins? Is 100,000 the most money that you can make? No, people definitely make more than $100,000. Not me, of course. Um, but people, I've heard that this can happen, that you make on more than $100,000. Um, but why aren't we seeing all those bins? Why aren't we seeing all the 200 bins? Why aren't we seeing all the rich folk in this graph? Check out this line here. What is that doing? Set X limit 0, 105,000. Ooh. Oh. Let's comment that out for just a second. Watch what happens here. Comment out that line. Now we're no longer setting an X limit. We run the file. Don't worry about the font thing here. That's not a big deal. Now look at the income. Whoa. The numbers got so big that they had to do it in scientific notation. So here's all us normal folk, and then here are people that make a lot of money. But that makes for a really crappy histogram, right? You can't really tell much of what's going on. So that is why we set an X limit there, because it makes a much more informative, nice graph. So I'm going to put that line of code back in there, right? Now, you could also do a lot fewer bins. You could set that to whatever you want, and then of course, the fewer bins you make, the bigger they'll be, the wider they'll be. All right. Feel free to play around a little bit more with this. You can play around with different ranges for the ages and bin sizes with that. But for your assignment, you're going to be producing something very similar to this. So check back on the Canvas page for the description of your assignment. Feel free to check in during my office hours, 12:30 to 1:30, anytime, even if it's just to say hi. I would love to talk to any one of you and just check in with how you're doing. Um, and I hope you're doing well. Stay healthy, keep up, keep working. I even just grading your guys' assignments, like it's just I feel a connection to you, to be honest, and it feels good to even look at your assignments. So until next time, I'll see you later.